Welcome to the pit, and today we're featuring two of the very best players in Age of Empires 4. We've got 3DB spawning in the southwest corner of the map in orange as the Malians. Is going to be going up against Server Crash Expert, also known as beastyqt, spawning in the northeast in yellow as the English. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the pit and a civilization matchup, which is, well, it's going to be an interesting one. The Malians do have some tools up their sleeves to counter the English, especially with the javelin throwers versus the longbows. They can certainly pack a punch against those, but obviously the civilization dynamics are a little bit more complicated than just the mechanics of one unit interaction versus each other, and so there's a lot to talk about on this map. One thing to talk about will be the lanes. So there are three lanes essentially, one in the middle, one on the the left, and one on the right, each having a sacred site. So that could be a win condition for either player, getting the sacred sites, all three of them, capturing them, letting that 10-minute timer tick down to the bottom. And it can often become a bit of a stalemate on this map. The pit is kind of renowned for having, late games and long drawn-out games, which both players are, very well adept at dealing with. And we'll see if that's something that eventualizes in this game. We can see a villager out on gold here for 3DB already. Getting that pit mine, if you're not aware, in Age of Empires 4 on the Malians, the pit mine does give that constant generation of gold. And so you'll want to get a pit mine as many as you can on these gold veins. Back at home, farming has already started for Beastie, so this is interesting because it's something that we haven't seen for a while, and it seems like it's coming back. He may have thought maybe he might have been running out of sheep. It does also give his scout the ability to go out on the map a bit longer before returning back home for sheep if he needs to. And getting farms early is quite nice for the English. It does obviously cost that wood, and it's not, it's not free in terms of the food that you can get on the map already, but it is certainly one of the fastest sources of food at this stage of the game, at least. Faster than going on berries. And deer pack is seeming to be pretty far out here for Beastie, actually, has to be said. Often on the pit, you can actually get a deer pack relatively close by, but it's not the case today. The spawn is a little bit harsh on that side of things. Starting off with 4 houses for now, 3DB, and it's going to be the council hall. Oh, actually, wait, it's going to delete it. It's going to go with the abbey of the king. So we're going to see the return of the king for the English today, and it kind of makes sense because we talked about how the longbows kind of struggle against the javelin throwers early on, and so he's going to be looking to get an early night out. The king, who's going to be able to do some damage, at least for hopefully for Beastie's sake. Anyway, there's going to be quite a few villagers going on the Mansa quarry. Wants to get to that next stage quick time. A bit of a concern because this does leave this area a little bit exposed. With longbows, it's a different story. You can't really pressurize buildings with those, but with the king coming involved, adding in some infantry could put some pressure. And so there's no landmark, no defensive landmark on this for this matchup for 3DB. At least he's made his choice. The good thing about the Abbey of the Kings as well, it does scale well to the late game, because obviously the council hall, whilst it's a very, very nice early boost for having the effectively, 2 archery ranges, you can obviously just build those 2 archer ranges as the game wears on. So it is a bit of a power spike to get those archer ranges very nice and early with the council hall. But if you're not sort of thinking about doing immense amounts of damage early on, well, it doesn't really give you that much value. So he's going to be getting that value throughout the game with the king and the healing ability around this landmark, and especially if he has to be defensive. And I like the positioning. So the positioning being forward does obviously, it's obviously very purposeful, and it's helpful because in the middle lane, this is often where a lot of the aggression can come through. It's the most sort of direct route to each other's bases, and having this landmark here means that any fights that beastyqt takes here, those units will be buffed and they will be healed up a little bit. As you can see, a nearby unit heals by 6 every 1 second. They do have to be out of combat though, but it can be really useful because, if you're having a combat here and just bring the units back home to heal up a little bit and take another fight, you can really take cost-effective trades. The Malians, of course, don't have such a bonus. What they do have though is the mill, the ability to make cows. They can convert their gold into food effectively with this mechanic, and the cows are a very efficient source of food for the Malians, so this could be a bit of a cow boom for 3DB. It would be interesting to see if he goes for the Frimborough garrison or the other landmark for the castle age, whether he develops a bit of a cow boom. It feels like it's kind of necessary in this matchup on this particular map. So the map is really important to talk about because it's a map that's gearing itself pretty much for the late game often. The cow boom is probably the better choice here. Anything you can do to keep the landmarks relevant into the late game is super important. And obviously he's done that with the Mansa Quarry as well. That Mansa Quarry will be getting him gold throughout the game. We're expecting to see a bit of a cow boom for 3DB when he can. Beastie looking to wall up. He could actually just build a couple palisades and protect a lot of his economy. Maybe with some palisade walls here, and he'll have a little bit of a pocket of space to build out into. You see the king already getting good value. He's going to snipe this villager. And, well, there we are. First blood there for the English. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the content. Hoping to get back into casting Age of Empires 4. If you have been enjoying it, do give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more content Age of Empires 4 related on the channel. Warrior Scouts coming up for 3DB, trying to snipe a villager. But the good thing for the English is, of course, they got their little bows on those villagers. So the Scout won't be able to pick that one off, I'm afraid. Knight getting even more value. So even though he's not getting any kills, he's actually getting sort of a lot of idle time, which is actually really strong. He's just going to back off and heal away now. Doesn't really have to dive in and do much more. Early harassment. It's quite nice for the English. There's professional scouts for 3DB. One of the civilizations is Malians that often do go for professional scouts to get the deer packs on the field, and it's certainly helpful on this map where the generation of the deer are a little bit far out. Looking to snipe the scout. Should be able to do so actually, because the movement speed for the warrior scout should be better. 1.75 per second versus the 1.62. Something that it is really strong for the Malians. It actually used to be better. This has actually recently been nerfed. The warrior scout actually in fact used to be faster than this, which is actually kind of bonkers when you think about it. Going on stone. It looks like it's going to be a second town centre. Unfortunately didn't get the mining camp in time, so it's going to be... Oh, he fixed it, which is a nice key attention to detail there for 3DB. And we do see the walls coming out now on the east side to create that bit of a pocket space for most likely farms. Certainly would want to have the farms on the back of the base. Now, another thing to think about is trade. Obviously not this stage of the game, only 7 minutes in, but trade could be an option if it does go to the late game, especially for the Malians. The English, on the other hand, won't really ever need trade, it seems. Primarily because of the fact that they still have enclosures and the Imperial Age upgrade can be very, very strong. Obviously, it's not as strong as it once used to be, but the farms actually generate 1 gold every 5 seconds. And so that's a really nice infinite source of gold for the English. And we see 3DB picking up the deer pack on the field. Should be able to get away with it. Just one more behind. That's been a nice bit of food. So we should expect to see the Malians having a good food economy. Speaking of food economy, though, no one really does it quite like the English with the farms. Incredibly efficient source of food. The farm harvest rate is increased with the mill influence as well. So, I mean, you never really build farms outside the influence of a mill with the English, to be honest with you. It's never really a thing. A couple of horsemen out for Beastie as well. Now, the reason why he's torching down the houses, with the Malians, you know, the more houses, the more structures in terms of houses or mining camps you have around your pit mine, the more gold it actually gathers. And so it's something that, well, 3DB will want to stop as much as he can. He wants to get the efficient gold income as far as possible. Nice amount of deer packs coming in. Also looking to get the survival techniques upgrade, which is very, very useful for when you're taking deer. Increases the speed of hunted meat gather rates by 15%. It's actually really quite strong. Really, we should be expecting to see a spike of food coming in for the Malians. Let's take a look at the villager count on them. 7 only. And so that kind of accounts for the food income rate being half of what Beasties is on at the moment. There's a second town centre for the Malians on the front lines, kind of going for that gold. It's kind of an interesting spot because it does force this issue for his sake to be aggressive because he doesn't want to lose this position. So he'll certainly want to pile on some pressure in the middle. I suspect that's what we're going to expect to see in this match. 3DB kind of pushing in on the middle, especially with the choice of this town centre placement. Walling up on the east, so Beastie will be quite happy with his position, so safe and secure. Especially because it's the stone mine that's on this side. Gold is an issue, and the gold is on the left, so that could be something he decides to venture out to there, Beastie. Once his primary goals are gone, could potentially take the one in the middle. We'll have to see which one it goes for. Scouts coming back home with the deer pack. It looks like one scout will just about get away with it. He saves it, and that's actually really important because you can see the health is actually returning back to well, it's restoring, and that's the benefit of the Malian scouts. They restore health pretty quickly. So whilst he doesn't get that extra deer back back home, he saves the scout's life. And B is sticking with the horseman line of things, wants to really torch things down. It will force B into reaction though. He might need to get some Donsos, which we'll see if he drops a barracks. Instead, he's actually going to go for a triple stable. So maybe getting some Sofa out, which is the heavy melee unit for the Malians. Pretty much the only heavy melee unit for them. Okay, a pack of 16 farms now. That's actually a lot. So you can see the food income pretty much only sustained by farms at this point. Actually, it does only have one villager on the sheep carcass. I can see how much food is getting in with those 8 farms. Slowly but surely, the gold income will start to drop there for 3DB. Might need to address that soon. It is still picking up some deer carcasses on the map. Now, of course, the Malians can't actually harvest a boar, so that's something to consider. One of the the civilizations with the Islamic tradition can't actually get that meat on the map. Of course, they've got the cows coming from the mill if they need to, though. Alright, looks like this pit mine has been given up. Can't really do too much about it. Now, with 2 town centers, 3DB does have a villager lead. But not all by that much, and it's not going to extend to very much either because of the fact that, well, Beastie's going to go up to the next stage with the King's Palace, which is effectively a town centre in and of itself, and so he'll be able to produce those villagers and not really be too far behind. But, 5 villagers at this stage is a decent lead at the 11-minute mark, so that'll be nice for 3DB. He's going to produce more production buildings, a lot actually. Looks like he's going to go for a very heavy Castle Age presence. Maybe look for a strong push. He's going to get some of those javelin throwers out. They'll do very well against the longbowmen, of course. Not so great against the horsemen, but once they do build up a critical mass, they can be semi-decent. It's similar to the longbows, actually. Similar sort of concept. Once you have a large mass of ranged units, they can do a decent amount of damage, as long as they're not surrounded. And there's that Castle Age time for Beastie. That does give him the opportunity to look to get those relics and secure them, so it'd be interesting to see if he drops a monastery soon. Doesn't have the wood for it just yet, with only 8 villagers on wood. But with villagers on, obviously, the farms and quite a few on gold, I'm expecting to see a lot of pressure coming in for Beastie, actually, in terms of gold-heavy units, probably knights, considering he already has the stables on the field. And that will give him the mobility that he needs. It's quite a nice option for the English, actually. This, the Abbey of the King's Landmark, it gives you a lot of opportunity, because of the fact that he's got the king, he can bring these units back and forward and heal them up. But it does take him into this sort of situation where he's got highly mobile units with stable units. Not going for the traditional spearman, longbowman option, because that's very a static army, very difficult to move around through the different lanes, the 3 lanes that are involved. The horsemen and the stable units, of course, got that extra mobility. We do see 3DB going for the pit mine on the south, obviously getting that pit mine free gold generation. Why wouldn't you? Now, these units will actually be healing up for Beastie, so this is the key bit of detail we talked about earlier. He can kind of run in and out and heal his units as he wants to. Just poke and prod, really. Like 3DB wants to get some walls up. Probably won't... he probably won't manage this, actually. I don't think 3DB has enough to protect those villagers. He's going to run in anyway, but I think B might not be able to take this fight. I think Beastie will be quite happy to just take this villager and then turn back and fight. And B might lose everything here. He's got to be cautious. It looks like, yeah, I thought for a second there Beastie might not fight, but he did in the end. He recognized that he could take that fight, and he pushes that back. And this is a concern for 3DB. We talked about how he needed to pile on pressure in the middle, because he won't want to lose this location. As I say that, though, 3DB did have a lot of production building, so he's going to be able to scale the army pretty quickly. Or Blacksmith for the win. He's going to get those upgrades as soon as possible. So it looks like it's going to be a Sofa and Javelin Thrower armor composition for 3DB. So far at the moment, it looks like the English are going for mostly just cavalry units. Could add in a couple of longbows. I think we saw that happen earlier. But this time, B might take this fight, and he might actually win. I think Beastie might be a little bit of trouble here. He's going to have to back off. And a villager is out there to wall up. So a good response there by 3DB to push this back. We do hear a relic being picked up by Beastie. Obviously courtesy of being in the Castle Age. So 3DB being in the feudal age, extending that feudal age, it does need to make it count. He needs to pile on some pressure, because obviously Beastie will have the tech advantage. Not only that, the eco upgrades could be something you could consider here, Beastie, and make that Castle Age count, not just for military, but also for the economy. Alright, well, looks like 3B is poking and prodding, wants to push in a little bit further, but the concern for B is that he's not been able to do all that much eco damage, and so going up to the next stage, the Castle Age, it grants Beastie a little bit of an advantage, especially if he starts taking into the eco upgrades. He's got a relic in already, and I suspect he'll be wanting to make that 2 or 3 more. And the good thing for Beastie is that whilst he's taking hits here, he's just buying time. This is all this is doing, because of course the units are actually healing themselves. So if anything, B is the one who's losing HP, losing resources for these units, fighting. And you might even look to try and torch this down, actually. That'd be quite a big pick-off if you can. A knight on the west side for Beastie. He cycles around, gets a villager kill, and he's actually going to be stopping the economy here for quite a significant period of time. 15 villagers are idled, and there's not much here that B has in response. He's going to need to get reinforcements in quickly, because the knight is heading to the wood line. He still survives with 16 HP, and he's going to survive for a bit. And the villagers have to back off. This is a lot of idle time being caused. On the east side, looks like a relic's being picked up by Beastie. And that's going to be great for his economy mid to late game. 3DB still pressuring in the middle. It's going to go for the Grand Fulani Coral, which is expected because of the cow boom he opted to do. This will actually be able to give you an extra 20 food per minute per cattle that are nearby in the cattle ranch. Military numbers looking strong for B, but the trouble is that, well, the narrow lanes that have been created here for Beastie means that, what is he gonna, oh my god, he's gonna lose everything. Oh, that was actually quite close. B managed to snipe the relic carrying monk. But he, yeah, it's pretty tight. He backs off now, and I think he has to back off. I think 3DB needs to rely on the Castle Age techs now. He's just being out-teched with the number of knights here for Beastie. It's looking good. But you can see he's certainly picking up a lot of the upgrades for his units. Now, imported armor is something to think about. It's quite nice for the sofa. Increases the armor by +2. Help take a better trade against the knights. With a couple of crossbows there for Beastie, that could certainly help his position. Picking up another relic. Yet another relic. He's already got 2 so far. He's going to get a third. He's actually just dumped one here. The villager count's looking pretty even now, especially after that little raid that happened earlier on. Looks like B is having a change of attack plan. Going on the west side, looking to get that sacred site is Beastie. I think he won't manage that, but it's worth the shot. And we talked about how, you know, he could venture out onto this gold, and that's exactly what Beastie has done. He's got the palisade walls to defend as well, which is obviously very key. Now, something that's actually interesting as we head into the mid-game is that gold is slowly starting to become a very precious resource. In fact, there isn't actually all that much gold left very soon, because the primary golds have pretty much been taken for the best part, at least for Beastie anyway. I think Beastie's been mining a lot of gold, but especially to fund those knights. But once this is over, B's going to have to venture out into the eastern one, and then it's actually the ones in the middle that they're going to have to contest. The concern for the late game for 3DB is that I think the English just generally have a better late game than the Malians, especially with enclosures. Whilst enclosures aren't as strong as they used to be, it's still free gold, and you don't have to use population to do that. And it might mean the case that 3DB might have to go for trade to try and get that gold in the late game if it heads that way. And that also takes valuable population space. Good advanced walls here by B. Should be able to secure that sacred site on the east side. That's also a good source of gold, rather, for him if he so wishes to gather that. As we said, the sacred site looks a little bit closer to B on this side in the middle. A little bit unfortunate there for Beastie, but he does have that gold secure, at least for him. On the east side, this is where 3B now is turning his attention to, trying to attack. But with everything so consolidated, I don't think Beastie's going to be all that concerned. And he just needs to build that economy. It looks pretty strong at the moment here. Beastie's economy. Getting those upgrades in. Getting a keep on the east side. This is actually a really nice position. It offers a lot of protection. B can't really deny that either at this point. Oh, the walls have been denied on the west side. Beastie might actually look to attack from this angle because he can. There aren't any walls on the west side. 2 knights there. They're going to get good value on the villagers. He's going to focus on the villagers, it seems. There are a couple of veterans so far that do take out the knights eventually. But again, it's more idle time, and just it all a little bit helps really. If we keep going up, it means that 3DB can't do any damage on this east side. He's going to have to head back onto the west in the middle. And you can see Beastie's playstyle here, meaning that he's going to be able to turtle up a little bit, boom his economy. He's got another pack of farms, another 7 farms. Decent number here for him. He's going to get that food income very, very nicely. Food income off the charts though for 3DB, and especially because of the cow boom. But whilst in a way that the the English have that benefit of the enclosures, well, the cow boom is strong for the Malians. Certainly still probably prefer the gold versus the food. Of course, farms is an infinite source of food for either, I was about to say either civilization, but the Malians obviously get the cows instead. And the Malians can be in many ways a very gold hungry civilization. They do have the infinite gold in terms of the pit mine, but it does seem like enclosures will be a little bit better. But 140 gold per minute is not all that bad. Takes care of the knights on the wood line. In the middle, I think this is where the focus is going to be now. Beastie sensing the fact that he's got a second town centre, a lot of the infrastructure on the front. There is a gold vein here to be had as well. Not much gold left on there, but obviously there's a pit mine involved. Takes the engagement. It's actually really a better fight here for B. Has the better military numbers, 74 to 60. Eco looking better here for Beastie after all those raids. Beastie's actually taken out 17 villagers so far versus just the one. So the eco damage caused by Beastie certainly has been better in this game, up to now at least. Just putting in a couple of man-at-arms in there as well to tank some damage. The javelin throwers will have a difficult time dealing with those. And you can just see all these units healing up, back up for Beastie. Very strong. Trying to get an outpost there, wants to take up the benefit of the network of castles bonus. I wonder if he's got a network of citadels. He doesn't quite yet. Could be something he actually decides to do. It actually increases the attack speed from 20% to 40%. It's incredibly strong, that upgrade if he gets it. He's going to take the fight. 3DB should be able to win this fight actually. It's actually looking pretty bad here for Beastie, underneath the influence of the Abbey the Kings for the most part. That's how that king leading the lines on the west side of that fight. Oh, a couple of bugged out sofas. That's actually really bad for B. The pathing really hurting him there. The reinforcements coming in thick and fast. Javelin throwers dealing a lot of damage. B might have to pile on the pressure and actually just double down on this. You look to take out the middle gold if you can and extract as much as you possibly can. But he's running out. In fact, actually, it's a bit of a swing around the man-at-arms, the heavy units, the knights. Dealing a lot of damage. Just feels like the sofa aren't strong enough here for the Malians. A lot of villagers at risk of being killed. B has to be careful. He doesn't have enough military here. He has to back off. I don't think he can hold this and sustain this position for that much longer. Especially with the reinforcements coming in. Got the defender's advantage, Beastie, although actually the spearmen are only there left killing villagers. Got 25 villagers so far, Beastie. Plus sofa do pop out, but spearmen a really nice option, nice choice. Because the spearmen will take out the sofa that are there, and the knights will take care of the javelin throws. Villagers are still mining gold, but I'm not sure for how long. It looks like Beastie's gaining momentum in the middle. Looks like 3DB might have to pull away. On the west side is getting the sacred site. Stone walls for Beastie on the west. It looks like Beastie's going to double down in the middle. He senses blood. That's where he wants to push. Villagers are staying out on gold for now, but almost 20 villagers behind. Means the economy now is actually going to be looking better here for Beastie. Still trying to gather as much gold as he possibly can. It just shows you the importance of the gold and how much importance that B is putting on this. Let's push it back. Beastie will do well to bring his king back home if he can. He's charging in, leading the lines, but he's going to lose it. Yeah, it's got the good surround. He does. The king perishes. Just a bit of a missed micro there for Beastie. Doesn't often happen, obviously. The player of his caliber and skill. Mangonel coming out. That's actually a really nice addition. Especially against the javelin throwers. That could do a lot of damage. No anti-siege here for B just yet. And looks like B is going to try and dive in on the west side, maybe. I'm not sure he has enough, really. Mangonel going to focus on the villagers. If the outpost goes up, that could help B, but villagers need to be careful about the Mangonel. Mangonel might go down, kind of getting surrounded by the Sofa. But the trouble is the Sofa are losing their lives to the Spearmen. The Spearmen are the difference makers, you feel. They're pretty tanky. Keep coming up there in the middle to protect that economy. That's actually a huge position to defend. Looking good here for Beastie. He's holding this, and we feel like the longer he holds, the longer obviously we get into the late game, which is where Beastie, not only as a player, thrives, but also the civilization thrives. Now, 3DB has actually activated the Sacred Site timer. So that could be something that he decides to aim for a win condition, but he hasn't finished the walls. And Beastie could just neutralize this pretty safely and securely and easily if he wishes to. He has a lot of army, but that Mangonel is always a bit of a concern. A lot of villagers being shot at. Forward siege workshop for B. He's going to need some springholds. Mangonel's being protected by the infantry and the stable units, the knights. He needs to find a way of getting rid of that Mangonel. Springhold replacement is involved in that tall outpost, also boosting it up, but 2 keeps. It's going to be really strong defense. It's such a condensed economy around the farms. It's so hard for B to pressure this, has to be said. It's going to be a late game grind, you feel. But the economy looking better for Beastie. It does mean that he has a good opportunity to replace the army once he loses it. Speaking of which, B does have the military numbers. But he just can't push in without siege. He's going to need some trebuchets. Obviously, no one does the trebuchets quite like the English. They're certainly going to turn into a siege fight. That's the only way to push this at this stage for B. He's going to need those trebuchets and springholds. Put 1 springhold out so far. We'd be expecting Beastie to send some units on the east. He does have 4 of the 5 relics, which is very strong. Another player going for that Imperial Age. It's going to be a very heavy Castle Age affair. Both players almost kind of reaching their population capacity, at least Beastie is anyway. I'm not so sure about B. He's actually kind of far behind. Almost 20 villagers behind. Does have a lot of forward production. B might need to replace this if he's getting shelled and if he's getting attacked by the trebuchets, which are on the back line with the 2 trebuchets, 3 springholds. Yeah, this is where it comes down to a siege fight, and it just feels like Beastie has the better siege numbers. Does take out a Mangonel. Good snipe there for B. The 2 springholds. Might be able to pick off another springhold. He does. A relatively even trade overall with the springholds. I think Beastie might lose his springhold before B. Just about, maybe. We'll have to see. Yeah, he does. Yeah. So B wins that springhold fight, but will he win the main fight of the units in the front? I don't think he does. I think Beastie takes the fight. Quite a few javelin throws. I'm not sure about the javelin throws here. The trouble is, what else do Malians get? I think he's kind of forced to the javelin throws. Obviously, he doesn't get heavy armored units in terms of man-at-arms. I think the man-at-arms is the big difference here. That's something that B is struggling to deal with. The trouble is for B is that if he goes for Sofa for countering the man-at-arms, well, there's a lot of spears there. So it feels like this army composition for the English is so strong in this condition. Spears and knights kind of counter everything that the Malians can throw. Well, spears and man-at-arms, to be honest. Looks like slowly but surely, 3DP is being pressurized. Will we see a unit though on the west side rather for... Oh, he is being decapped. There we are. Sacred Site is being decapped. A bit of an oversight there for the B. I think really the Sacred Site win was probably his only win condition. Although having said that, the central Sacred Site might be decapped in a minute now anyway. Forward Siege Workshop going down and production buildings go down. It's going to be Berkshire, the Imperial Age landmark for the English. That's going to be almost impossible to break through for B, especially without siege. It just feels like the lack of siege here really hurting his chances. But this position going up now is going to look so strong for Beastie, especially the Berkshire itself is incredibly strong, but also the tech up, the Imperial Age, it's going to allow him to upgrade these units and get a really better army on the field. Looks like trade is slowly being set up though for 3DB. I say slowly, it is only just one trading he has so far. Of course, he's running out of gold, so it's kind of needed. This is very good timing for Beastie to go to the Imperial Age because he'll actually be able to get the enclosures upgrade for his farms. I suspect that's probably one of the first things that he will do. So he can continue that gold. He doesn't actually have many villages on gold. In fact, he only has 2. Yeah, there just isn't enough gold on the map, and obviously now enclosures is the way forward. That's exactly what he's doing. The infantry pushing on in the middle. Comes a little bit difficult for 3DB. How does he push this back? He's got a lot of military, but he needs siege. The issue is the siege, really. The Mangonels will take care of the javelin throws, the spearmen against the Sofa, the man-at-arms tanking everything. Looks like 3DB is diving in. He has to push now, actually, to be fair, because 3DB is stuck in the Castle Age. His opponent being in the Imperial Age, he won't want to let those upgrades come in, which I think some of them haven't actually been queued. So, yeah, I mean, he's struggling, to be fair, a little bit here, Beastie resources-wise, to upgrade, but it's not really so much a problem because he just needs to survive a little bit longer, get those upgrades that are slowly trickling in, and he's got a strong economy, he's got a stronger economy, and so be able to replace his units, which he will do. And really it's the siege that's paying the difference, especially with these 2 springholds. Going to snipe the springhold there for B. That's actually a really suffering loss there. Sprinkled numbers, when you lose them, it's so bad. And there it is. There's the GG. Beastie's king is back online. The English king makes a return.